me, Mackenzie Marie, and this is the true story of the most disturbing disappearance in history, with real photos documenting the last days of 9 missing hikers that never returned from the Dyatlov Pass. Imagine you're stranded in the middle of the mountains in a snowstorm, and the snow is so cold that it's burning your skin. The only thing that you can hear is your own heartbeat. Somewhere ahead, 8 of your friends are out there, but they're not coming back. This isn't a ghost story, this isn't a movie, this is the true story of the Dyatlov Pass. It's January 23rd, 1959. 10 hikers set out from the Ural Platonic Institute in the Soviet Union. They were young, most were in their early 20s. Strong, experienced hikers. The kind of people who lived for extreme adventure. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, had planned a 16-day expedition to reach a Torten mountain, a remote peak. And in the local language, it means don't go there. Their route would take them through the freezing wilderness, with temperatures dropping below negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit, in the kind of isolation where no one would hear you scream. The group included engineer students, hikers with multiple expeditions under their belt, and one more experienced outdoorsman named Simon Zolotaryov. Hopefully I pronounced that correct, it's Russian. 5 days into the expedition, on January 28th, one of the hikers, Yuri Yudin, got sick and returned back, a twisted fate that would save his life. The other 9 hikers pressed on. By February 1st, they had reached the slopes of Kholat Syakhl, also known as Dead Mountain, which I don't know why anyone would want to go there considering the name. Their original plan was to cross the pass, then find shelter somewhere in the forest. But as the snowstorm rolled in, they became disorientated in whiteout conditions. Instead of descending into the safety of the trees, they stopped halfway down the slope and set up their tents in the wide open, fully exposed to any winds in all elements. Why would experienced hikers make such a dangerous decision? On February 26, nearly 3 weeks after they had started their expedition, a search team went out looking for them. And what they found was just wrong. The first thing they found was the tent, partially buried under snow. It was still standing, but it had been slashed open from the inside, like they were trying to escape out of it or something. And everything that they needed to survive was still inside the tent. All the hiking boots, heavy raincoats, all of their gear was neatly inside the tent. It was as if they had walked out in a hurry, not even thinking to grab it. There were also footprints in the snow, some barefoot, some with socks, and these footprints were leading away from the tent to the tree line. The bizarre thing about the footprints was that they were walking in what looked like a single file line. About a mile down the hill, near the edge of the forest, they found the first 2 bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonshenko. They were both laying under a large cedar tree. Both of them were barefoot, wearing only a shirt and underwear. Like, why would they be out in the snow like that? It just doesn't make sense. There was remnants of what looked like they had built a fire to try to stay warm. The branches in the cedar tree above them were broken, like as if someone was like trying to climb up it, but like maybe had fallen down, or like they were trying to climb up it to see something off in the distance. Or maybe they were trying to escape something in the darkness that they couldn't see, that they didn't know. Something that maybe scared them, and that's why they left their tent. A few hundred meters from the tent, 3 more bodies were found. Igor Dyatlov, Zanita Koromorga, Rustin Slotodin. They were all facing toward the tent, on their hands and knees, crawling. They looked like they had been frozen in motion. The last 4 took months to find. They were discovered in a ravine, buried under 13 feet of snow. The ravine was less than 100 meters away from the cedar tree, and these last 4 suffered immensely. They were all wearing different pieces of clothes from each other, suggesting they had taken clothes from those who had died before them. And the way these bodies were positioned was unsettling. Some were clinging to each other, some twisted in unnatural positions, and all of them showing injuries far worse than the first 5. It had looked less like they had gotten lost and more like they were running from something they couldn't escape. Autopsies revealed things so bizarre that they couldn't be explained for. The first 5 bodies, the ones found between the cedar tree in the tent. Most died of hypothermia, but even they had strange details in their autopsies. Igor, the leader, had a fractured skull and bruises on his fist, as if he had gotten in a fist fight. Zinaida had bruises on her face and her torso. Rustem had a fractured skull, not enough to kill him instantly, but enough to cause a concussion and disorientation. Then came the last four, who were found months later. Ludmila had her ribs fractured, her chest crushed. Injuries the examiner had said were from those of a car crash. Her tongue was gone, not cut cleanly, but completely missing, along with her eyes, her lips, and her eyebrows. The autopsy claims that these injuries were from natural conditions, but something does not sound right about that. Although her body was partly underwater and in melting snow, but the tongue removal, it looked deliberate. According to the autopsy report, she had a small amount of blood found in her stomach. One of the strangest details in this case, meaning that she had to have been alive when her tongue was cut out of her mouth, which makes her death even far more disturbing. Semyon had a massive rib fracture on the side of his chest. Again, like from an enormous force that couldn't have been human, like as if it was a car accident. Yet his skin was intact and not damaged. Nikolai had a skull fracture so severe, the examiner said that no human could do that without leaving external wounds. And Alexander, he was much better dressed than the rest of them. He might have been the last person alive because he had the most clothes on. He was wearing a sweater, a long sleeve t-shirt, long underwear, and one felt boot. He also had facial damage, and both of his eyebrows were missing. This could have also been due to decomposition from natural cases like water, because he was also in snow, but some say it was more along the lines of what looked surgical. His nose, it was missing down to the bone. He also had this deformation to his neck that they say was from violent twisting, and the skin in that area was described as loosened. He was the only one who had no major fractures, but he did have some type of damage done to his neck that the bruising and stuff there only would happen if he was still alive. So something did happen to him still. His official cause of death was ruled as hypothermia, but the neck damage and the facial trauma was unexplained for in the final report. The examiner's official statement was vague. He wrote the official cause of death was unknown compelling forces, strong enough to cause catastrophic injuries without breaking skin. No one had shotgun wounds or knife cuts. There was nothing that suggested they had been attacked in the conventional way. And the most unsettling part of all of this was that there were traces of radiation found on their clothing. And to this day, no one has been able to explain how this is even possible to happen in the middle of a mountain slope. Their journals and final photographs were recovered, showing happy faces, campsite setups, and even a strange final shot, a blurry figure in the snow. The last journal entry, from now on we know the snowman is real. What does that even mean? I need to know the context. Like, the snowman, you mean the Yeti? The abominable snowman? What snowman are we talking about here? There is so much debate around what happened in the final hours of their lives. Some say tensions boiled over. Maybe a romance, maybe jealousy. Maybe there was a violent fight in the tent. But would that explain the radiation? Or what about the missing tongue? Others believe that there was someone else out there following them, stalking them. Maybe this person chased them from the tent into the snow. Their campsite wasn't far from the Soviet military testing grounds. Could they have stumbled into some secret experiment testing ground? Would that explain the radiation found on their clothing? Radiation, it doesn't just break down the body. It can completely unravel the mind, causing disorientation, paranoia, even visions and auditory hallucinations. That's enough to push someone to act erratically, like slashing open their only shelter or wandering barefoot into a blizzard. Okay, imagine this. They're exposed to radiation. There's a giant snowstorm going on. They can barely see in front of them. They've been out in the wilderness for weeks at this point. Maybe one of them starts freaking out. Confusion sets in, decision-making goes wrong. Could that have been why they abandoned their tent and left all their gear there? Due to a very bad mistake. But then why did they slash it from the inside? I don't know. Years later, it came out that people were saying maybe it was an avalanche that they experienced. These were experienced hikers. They would know to shelter in place. And all of those internal entries without leaving any marks, it just doesn't line up. It could have been radiation, it could have been the government, it could have been an avalanche, but then there's people believe it might have been the snowman, like a real life Yeti. Locals would speak of a strange creature found in the mountains, and large footprints were allegedly found by their tent. Then there's also that hiker's diary entry saying that they now know the snowman is real. What the fuck? Could there have been a Yeti? Is that possible? Okay, remember this picture with the dark, blurry figure in the background? Could that be a Yeti? I don't know. And then there's other people who also believe that maybe it was something extraterrestrial. Strange lights were reported seen in the sky the night of their death. All of the injuries gotta make you question, was it from something not from this earth? Some people believe that it might have been cult involvement, using their eyes and their tongue for some type of witchcraft ritual. Why did they leave all of their warm clothes behind? Why did they leave the tent behind? What happened that we don't know? Because none of this is adding up and none of the pieces make sense. You need to make it make sense because nothing's making sense, or else someone has left out some serious details of this case. Several of the hikers were found partially clothed due to paradoxical undressing. Right before you pass away from hypothermia, it actually gets really, really hot. So you want to undress your clothes, and that's why you end up half naked most of the time. But how does that explain the violent injuries? How'd it go from A to B? Why did they leave the tent in the first place? Paradoxical undressing, all the hypothermia, none of that would have happened if they never left the tent. So what happened? Was it nature? Was it murder? Was it something we can't even imagine? All we know is that 9 hikers went out into the Ural Mountains and never came back. And whatever happened to them, it's somewhere out there and someone knows. Drop your theories in the comment section below. Let me know, what do you think happened? For the missing eyes and the missing tongue, I have no idea what to tell you about that. But honestly, this is what I think. Maybe there was a massive avalanche, like maybe they went through that. I'm gonna assume that a lot of snow could be really heavy and maybe that's why they could have gotten fractures. Maybe it happened at nighttime when they were sleeping and they tried to like escape out of the tent. Like in situations like that, are you supposed to walk in a single file line? For the radiation and everything else, I have no clue what happened here. The only thing I think I know for sure is that they tried to get back to the tent. I mean, that's why there was 3 of them literally crawling to get back. For the missing skin, eyebrows, the tongues, the eyes, I really don't know. You know, like Stranger Things, 11 from Stranger Things, like how she can control people with her mind and like prick people's bones with her minds. Like that's what this is giving. Maybe they were using radiation on her to make her like a super person. Maybe she caused an avalanche with her mind. I don't know. All I know is that this whole situation is wrong and none of it makes sense. I'm Mackenzie Marie, and if you like stories like these, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I'm uploading new videos every week. You can follow me over on Spotify or Apple Music at Mackenzie Marie, as well as all of my other social medias. Big shout out to this person for being the premiere of my last video. You are an icon. Love ya. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you here in my next video. Toodles!